Hello, everybody. My name is Ansel. My team members include Nun, Cassidy, and Sebastian, and we're going to be presenting about changing the climate of business, or how businesses contribute to climate change and what we can do about it.
So for us, the preferred state is that businesses understand the significance of climate change and place climate actions as a priority, as well as demonstrate interest in finding the best solutions to minimize their environmental impacts. Businesses should feel empowered and supported by the society and the government to implement sustainable practices. They should effectively manage their energy usage and reduce operation waste. They are successful in lowering their contribution to climate change and constantly develop to lower it even more. And going beyond all of this is that the marketplace will become a powerful engine for fighting climate change, and businesses act as role models for the entire society to fight climate change. To measure the preferred state, we will assess the greenhouse gas emissions of businesses, their energy usage and waste production, which used to be 7.6 billion tons. We will also assess their understanding of climate change and their willingness to implement climate actions, as well as the support that they receive from society in terms of becoming more sustainable.
Fortunately, we have not reached the preferred state yet, and we're in the problem state. So industrial companies contribute to a lot of greenhouse gas emissions through production and transportation. Oil and gas leaks also contribute to a lot of environmental damage. And restaurants contribute to food waste, which costs approximately 2.6 trillion US dollars per year. And restaurants are responsible for 34% of the food waste that occurs at the final stage of food production. Because there have been an increase of emissions, global temperature has risen approximately 1.1 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times, which has led to rising sea levels, and those two have increased the frequency and intensity of natural disasters.
In contrast to the negative impacts, some businesses have already been taking actions to fight climate change. For example, Uber had the incentive policies to motivate their drivers to use electric vehicles. Amazon, Unilever, Hilton, and IHG Hotels Group, and many more businesses have also taken action.
These policies may be a step towards the right direction. However, they're not implemented on a larger scale. So right now, we believe that the problem stems from the government. They have a lack of social support, and they have many financial obligations, for example, the military to fund over the environment. Because of that, they create a lack of effective legislation, and not enough power or funding goes to environmental protection agencies. Because of that, there's a lack of education among the people because it's not a priority. Companies are not committed to goals because there's nothing keeping them committed. And these solutions obviously do not reach developing countries because they don't even reach the developed countries.
This is an overview of our strategy. We will firstly create a product to support sustainable restaurants. Secondly, develop internal policies for businesses to implement to reduce their carbon footprint. And lastly, we will develop ways that organizations and businesses can collaborate with each other and with the government to promote responsible business. Our product is a website that helps restaurants to identify how food can be used instead of being wasted. In the homepage, after choosing the location, a map will appear with markers representing food events in that area. You can see that there are currently 3 food events in Atlanta. When clicking on the marker, an overview of the food event will appear. For example, 7-Eleven has expired groceries that cannot be sold, but they don't want to waste it. So if you're interested, you will click more information, which will bring you to a description of the food, including the name, canned fish, original price, selling price, and what it can be used for. You can also sign up as a restaurant owner and type in the information of your food, then upload a photo of the food, and your food event will be displayed in the map as presented in the previous slides. This is a summary of the website. We all know that there are food that can still be eaten or fruits that look ugly and cannot be sold. Instead of being wasted, the website will help restaurants to connect with poor people or people having pets in food banks to reduce this food. For half-eaten or expired food, it will connect them with farmers to use the food waste for composting. By offering food at a lower price, the website allows restaurants to make more money and buyers to get a lower price.
Our second strategy is to develop internal operation methods for businesses to reduce their carbon footprint. For example, they can build solar panels for offices, build green spaces. The government can certify sustainably made supplies to give them a discount. We can sanction employees' acts of damaging the environment, invest in windows for natural lighting, allowing employees to work from home, which cuts carbon dioxide. And we can have education training to teach employees why this is important and what steps are being taken to reduce the impact of climate change. Our third strategy is to work with the government. So we can have government subsidies for the implementation of the operational changes. We can also have a carbon tax for polluting industries, which incentivizes large companies to reduce emissions because they have the money and the manpower to be able to hire more sustainability experts, invest in renewable energy. And this also benefits smaller companies because they naturally have less emissions. The tax will go to compensation for the victims of climate change and support sustainable business in developing countries. Another thing we'll do is eliminate fossil fuel subsidies because those are keeping the industry very powerful, and we can increase fines on oil and gas companies for leaks because oftentimes the price tag does not reflect the environmental damage that they caused. We're going to get rid of the upper limit and triple current fines. So for scaling for the website, we're going to start with one location. And for the other policies, we're going to start with the USA because there is no carbon tax currently. So we're going to need a lot of human resources for this. We're going to need coordinators between restaurants and charities for the website. For the new office plans, we're going to need sustainability advocates and experts, solar panel installers, and for the governmental changes, we're going to need governmental officials to argue for this change. And we're going to need some UN collaboration, and they can use the sustainable development goals that 193 countries have agreed on, and they can perhaps draft new legislation, new plans for businesses specifically.
Next, we will present the costs required to implement this strategy. In terms of the website, some potential investors would be companies that own restaurants, departments of agriculture, and individual investors. The website will benefit its investors by making profits with website advertising. In terms of the website cost breakdown, we have identified the initial cost, the maintenance cost, and the PR cost, which is a total of roughly $114,000 for the first year.
And for the other costs, the office plan, right? We can subsidy that by getting rid of the oil and gas subsidies and putting it to other usage. And we can use simply only 1% of that, which is $6.5 billion. And we're also going to be generating some money. The carbon tax will be set at $200 a ton, which is more than any other country is doing right now. And 80% of the money will go to rebuilding communities that have been impacted by climate change, and 20% of that will go to investments in new businesses. So within 6 months, we're going to start development of the website and start legislation drafts. And within the next year, we're going to launch the website in the city as a pilot program and obtain feedback. And we're going to finish the legislation draft. Within 5 years, the website will run in the whole country, whole US, and it will be going international. The carbon tax will have already been implemented. Other countries will also collaborate in the carbon tax, and hopefully the carbon tax model will be worldwide. So we're going to explain the impacts of the strategy all the way from restaurants to the world. So for restaurants, charities will decrease food spending because they can obtain cheaper food using the website. People in the community are better fed and closer knit because they can share food and be more charitable. In offices, the windows will improve employee health, and the green roofs will improve well-being, because according to a study, being near greenery improves mental health. And in businesses, it'll become a driving force for sustainable development and investment, and they will promote the economy of developing countries. And in the world, there'll be less climate-driven natural disasters and increased quality of life. Of course, all this will come with less emissions. Thank you for listening, and please ask any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Any of our evaluators want to chime in here with some questions, reactions, etc.?
Well, hey, oh, you go.
Okay. No, great job, guys. And it's very ambitious. It echoes, I think, some of the Green New Deal project we've heard out of Washington. I don't know, I was thinking here in Philadelphia, I'll put the link. It's something called Philabundance. And I think they do a lot of similar work in this region with getting restaurants to donate their food for hunger. But they haven't really linked to the environment like you're proposing, but maybe look at their site to just sort of see how Philabundance, maybe you can kind of do a similar thing in Atlanta and start to link the restaurants to hunger, but then also the environmental aspect. So obviously a very ambitious plan you have here, but I like how you're starting, with the restaurants and then in a particular region. So I think this has a lot of good potential.
I think Kurt was trying to say something or starting to say something earlier.
Yeah, so yeah, totally. Echo the same stuff. There's strong work in this area already. And I know Second Harvest in our area does a lot. And I don't know this was Second Harvest, but in Las Vegas, there was a thing a few years ago where, of course, these enormous buffet lines and all kinds of food waste. And the problem was, at the end of the day, that food isn't necessarily safe to give out. So then an organization worked with all these different hotels and restaurants to come up with practices such that they could sort of judge, okay, now's the time to shuttle off some and keep it warm and do this and that, the next thing. And all of a sudden that amount of waste, there's just I actually don't know where it went, got back to people. So there's lots of great examples and people to partner with. I love, once again, the idea of starting local and, echo the comment, tying it to climate is just going to strengthen it. I also was really pleased to see your diagram of barriers. And so, Bucky told us that systems are defined by the relations. So you're talking about adding new relations, aren't you? Right? You've got a relation right now where food is being landfilled or maybe at best composted. You can link it back to people. So you can start drawing diagrams like that. And that's really going to help. And that gives you this idea of closing the loop, right? And one more thing is things can go to bioreactors, I think is one of the terms, right? Where you turn the food waste into energy, I think methane and things like that. So yeah, very strong. And sort of like the previous commenter, Start with one thing. You know, you chase 3 rabbits, you won't get them all. So start with one thing like food waste, and that ties in actually to your middle thing, which I think maybe is the strongest in a way, which is sharing best practices between restaurants and other, helping them get together and talk to each other. That's a new level of organization. It's what I call regenerative. And because they really know a ton, right? They know way more than any of us, and they want to help. And so you get them together talking and doing stuff, I think it's really going to accelerate. So thank you.
Well, this is Charles. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Charles. Yes.
Yeah, great. What I like most here is the impact in that everybody wins. As Jim said, and I think there is a program going on campuses right now, not only restaurant, but the cafeteria in campuses. I was looking for that website, but it's also similar to that. So it's when I find it, I can post it, and then it's good to know that.
Thank you.
Actually, I think you did a great job on your presentation, and I don't have a lot to add because I think the previous comments encompass everything I would have had to add. So good job.
Thank you. If we have any more comments, please add them, but we need to make the shift to the next presentation so we don't run out of time. So thank you all. If we could get the next team to have their slideshow presentation up on the screen and move forward.